Hi everyone, it's Nicki here and welcome back to my channel where I talk about my editing work, my writing, books and pretty much everything else. The focus today is writing because I have a new release out. Yay! This is a short story which features in NineStar Press's Teacher's Pet Anthology. Now the story is called Full Marks, and for those of you who follow me you may have seen it before because an original version of this story was released by another publisher last year. However, that publisher folded within a few months after it coming out, so it didn't have much of a life. So I've reworked it a little bit for this anthology call. Luckily it was accepted, and I'm here to share a bit about the story with you today. So recently I saw a friend of mine do a tag in which she introduced her new release. However, the tag was more aimed at whips than finished released books. So we sort of had a little comment discussion at the time that maybe she would tweak the tag for a new release, and I've decided to do a similar thing. So I've just dropped down a few questions here that I will now do at the beginning of videos before each of the new release, before I read you a little excerpt. So this first one, question 1, briefly introduce the story. So the theme of this anthology was romances, school-based romances, and my story is about a young man who was in love with his university lecturer and has coming back to reconnect with him a few years later, now that they sort of no longer have that academic relationship, and this reconnection, this meeting is going to take place at a school reunion. So that's the premise of the story, and there's the two of them. They're both a bit tentative. Will they find love by the end? Number 2, what inspired you to write this piece? Well, it was originally an anthology excuse me, call that prompted me to write the original version of the story with the other publisher. So it wasn't one where I suddenly had major inspiration for a story just off the bat. I saw the call, had to think about it, the idea came to me. So there's not too much to say about it. I wanted to go with university as opposed to high school just because that doesn't bring up any sort of age issues and things like that. And I could imagine, you know, if you met a university lecturer, maybe the age gap isn't quite so large and there could be the possibility there. And even if it is large, in this case actually it is more of a May-December thing, it was less of a problem. So, 3, what are the main themes? I would guess second chances is probably a big one. Making up for missed opportunities in the past and having a second chance at love. 4, introduce your main characters. So Jacob is our young man, and he is a budding writer, and he was madly in love with his English professor when he was at uni. And he's a kind of introverted sort of character. He keeps to himself, he's not really outgoing, which is why Professor Hobbs, our secondary character, is surprised when he sees that he's going to be at the reunion. Professor Hobbs is an older man, a pretty standard distinguished professor. He does actually wear tweed, so that kind of feel, but just a generally kind and honest sort of person. Number 5, what's your favourite thing about writing the story? I liked the hopeful tone it has. You know, it's bittersweet stories are great, but sometimes you just want a really sort of sweet, nice romance where everyone ends up with the people they want to be with. And what difficulties did you encounter writing it? Nothing too major on this one. As I said, it is a short story, it's not a very long work, so there are no plotting difficulties or major issues. I did lengthen it a tiny bit ready for this resubmission for the new anthology call because they wanted stories that's a little bit longer. So I did have to put a bit of work and thought into how to do that without it just being filler, how to make it really relevant to the story. So that's probably the only thing I can think of. And finally, where can readers find your book? In all the usual places. This story is releasing from NineStar Press, so you'll be able to find the anthology Teacher's Pet on their website, as well as all the standard spots. If you want Moby, it'll be on Amazon, and I will link to my blog post in the little video here once the blog post goes live, and then you'll be able to find all the links, buy links there to the main sort of shops and main places. So without any further ado, I should read you a couple of paras, shouldn't I? So this is an excerpt from Full Marks by Asta Idonia. Jacob Corby stared at his reflection in the smeary rearview mirror and adjusted his tie for the 5th time in as many minutes. There was a slight flush to his cheeks, the hint of colour serving to brighten his eyes. He met his own gaze and took a deep breath, holding it for several seconds before releasing. This was it. Further prevarication was redundant. He either had to leave the car and enter the building, or turn the engine back on and go home. He thought for a moment, then he ran his fingers through his hair, grabbed his phone and wallet, checked his tie one last time, just in case, and opened the door. The walk from the car park to the university's main hall was only a few metres, yet it felt long and arduous, the building never getting any closer, the brick walls looming over him nonetheless. Every shuffling step Jacob took kicked up gravel, announcing his arrival in a noisy rattle. Despite the fact that no one was around, he sensed eyes on him, judging, condemning, and more than once he considered changing his mind and turning back. His university days, while nowhere near as unpleasant and traumatic as high school, had not been filled with camaraderie and fun. It wouldn't worry him in the least if he never saw any of his old classmates again. He was at this reunion for one man and one man only, Professor Hobbs. I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, the book's available everywhere. If not quite yet on Amazon, it will be within the next few days. I just have to post this a little bit ahead of time sometimes because of getting links for blog posts and things. But it's called Teacher's Pet, released from NineStar Press, and I hope you'll check it out. Bye for now, everyone.